Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today we're diving into a topic that is deeper than food. We're going to be talking about the invisible weight, how emotional eating quietly shapes our identity. Because when we're talking about emotional eating, we are not just talking about the food. We're not just talking about what's on our plate. We are talking about the invisible weight that we carry. We're talking about the invisible voices that we constantly hear in our brains. We're talking about the beliefs, the self-judgment, the way that we see ourselves through the lens of our relationship with eating and through the lens of our emotions and, how food impacts our day-to-day life. And so if you've ever thought to yourself, I just don't have the willpower, or why can't I eat like everyone else? Why can't I eat like a normal person? Why can't I just have it together like everyone else? This episode is for you, because I want to normalize for you that emotional eating is not just a habit, right? It's not a habit that a 21-day challenge can change, right? This is a deeply ingrained story, a story that we tell ourselves about who we are, right? It's so deep. It becomes like the DNA of our self-worth, of what we think we're capable of, and of where we belong in the world. And it just takes on such a great role in our lives if we let it, right? And so this episode is about really reframing that. And so right from the start, I want you to understand, and I want you to know that we're going to talk about how you are not your eating habits. You are not your cravings. You are not your choices with food. You are not your toughest moments. You are not when you give in, right? And the way you eat does not define your self-worth. So let's talk about how we're going to rewrite this story. So I'm going to break this episode up into 4 parts. We're going to talk about the stories that we tell ourselves about emotional eating. We're going to talk about emotional eating and confidence. We're going to talk about food and identity and who we are beyond this mindset, right? And then we're going to talk about from shame to self-acceptance. So I hope that you stick with me throughout the episode, because it's going to be a really good one. So let's talk about the stories that we tell ourselves about emotional eating. Okay, so one of the hardest parts, I know for myself, I know for the women that I'm with in my mentorship and that I speak to on a daily basis, that one of the hardest parts about struggling with emotional eating isn't just the eating itself. It's how we judge ourselves for it. It's the constant narration in our brain. I've heard it time and time again. I've heard it in my own brain. I've heard it spoken aloud in the coaching calls in my mentorship. I've heard it spoken aloud in the coaching calls with my one-on-one clients. This is the talk, right? I have no control. I'm always going to be this way. I don't have the same discipline that other people have, right? Essentially just devaluing, absolving ourselves of any kind of empowerment. But the thing about these thoughts is when we let them live rent-free in our brains like this, when we, this negative self-talk and the way that we judge ourselves, these thoughts settle in. They start shaping how we see ourselves in every aspect of our life, not just food, not just eating. Because if you're someone who thinks that you can't control yourself, or something that feels difficult or heavy is always going to be this way, or something that feels challenging, or something that feels like it's not quite aligning for you, right? If you don't feel like you have the same ability as other people, right? The same discipline, but that can be, that can also relate to, I don't have the same ability to connect with other people, right? Like you can start to apply the same thought process that impacts your confidence in other areas of your life, like your relationships, like your belief in your ability to change, the way you show up in your career, and even your friendships, right? So I remember in my life when I genuinely didn't think I was capable of having a healthy relationship with food. I genuinely didn't think that I would be able to sit down and have one serving of something and that would be enough. I didn't think that I'd be able to go into a party with a buffet table and the entire time not be like, harping and psychically thinking about the food the entire time, right? And having negotiations in my head. I didn't know. I didn't think I was capable of that. And because I carried that belief with me, it kept me stuck. It became an identity, right? I was the girl that, that was going to be controlled by something outside of myself. I was the girl who struggled with food. And when I believed that that was something that I was, it felt really impossible to change because I connected my identity to this belief. So here's what I want you to hear. Your eating habits are not your identity. They are behaviors, and behaviors can change. Behaviors can change, right? Eating habits are just, eating habits are behaviors that don't yet have self-awareness to them yet. And that's how we can change our behaviors, because we can untangle the stories that we've attached to them with tools, with mindset tools, with self-awareness tools, with nervous system rewiring tools. So instead of, I have no control, what if you reframed it as, I'm learning how to reconnect with my body, right? Like I am, or, instead of thinking that I have no control, instead being like, clearly something is going on in my body and I need to understand and learn what that is. Instead of, I'm always going to be this way, what if you told yourself, I'm capable to change and I'm already taking steps towards changing? So this is the work. The work isn't just about what's on the plate. It's not just changing what we eat. It's not just getting a new diet plan. It's not just getting a new eating strategy. It's not just getting new recipes to make quote unquote healthier food. It's changing the way we speak to ourselves about food, about our choices, about our bodies, and about our own worth. So moving into the next topic that I wanted to talk about, which is emotional eating and confidence, it kind of moves into this, because the thing about emotional eating, as you know, emotional eating and binging, is that it's not just about the moments that we overeat. Right? Emotional eating isn't just something that we do in a vacuum. Right? Emotional eating impacts all the moments around the moment that we emotionally eat and binge. And it impacts how those moments where we actually are doing the behavior make us feel about ourselves in our lives in all other moments. So I've had clients, share with me, and I remember this for myself, you get to the place where you just don't trust yourself anymore. And this is the most difficult and challenging part. You feel like food has taken over, like you're at war with your own body. And when you feel like you can't trust yourself with something as basic as eating, it can chip away at your confidence in everything else, right? Like it can you can feel like you're in a vortex constantly thinking about eating, which that in and of itself, right? Obsessive thinking can strip away confidence. But then if you connect your identity to your behaviors with eating, you're going to start thinking that you're not going to be able to do other things, which is totally untrue. Right? And comparison plays a huge role in this also. And like, as we know these days with so much social media doesn't help us at all. Right? We could see people's perfectly curated feeds about people to have perfect eating habits, who look like they have it all figured out, and we think, why can't I be like that? And suddenly it's not even about food anymore. It's not even about understanding what our needs are and why we're doing emotional eating and binging in the first place. It's about feeling less than. right? Like we're looking on social media for tips and tricks and secrets, and we walk away feeling less than, right? It's one of the reasons why when people ask me about what I eat in a day, I don't really share that because I don't see the point, right? Like I don't see the point of sharing my eating habits, right? Like I share my eating mindset and I share how I think about eating and how I make decisions about when I want to eat. But what I eat, because like that changes every day depending on how I feel and my intuition, and my hunger and my desire. And this is what we really want, because when we can follow that yellow brick road, we trust ourselves and then we get confidence. So instead of measuring success, well, whether you're perfect today, we could start rebuilding confidence by shifting the focus from perfection to progress and connection and curiosity. Or like, did you pause for a moment for reaching for food today instead of immediately diving in? That's a win. Even if you ended up eating more than you thought you would, that's still a win. Did you let yourself enjoy something and you didn't feel guilty about it? You felt free eating it? That's a win. Did you recognize an old pattern and interrupt it, even for just a second? Right? That's a win. That's huge. Right? Confidence doesn't come from suddenly having some perfect relationship with food. It doesn't come from changing yourself on a macro, from changing something a macro. It comes from proving to yourself little by little that change is possible, and also recognizing those small changes as important. You have to care that these small things are important, right? Like pausing. Your nervous system's getting more regulated. You're not as reactive. That's amazing. Over time, that's going to be huge. Letting yourself enjoy pleasure, huge. Right? How many of us walk around like not being able to feel safe enjoying things because we're waiting for the shoe to drop, or we're worried that we're going to, be existentially punished or something, or, it's going to lead to something bad, right? So if you let yourself enjoy something without guilt, that's massive. And then recognizing an old habit or pattern, mindless eating, right? And maybe you realize that you mindlessly eat, but now it's not mindless, right? You're recognizing you're doing it and you're stopping the pattern and interrupting it. It's major. I remember what it felt like to be stuck in the cycle of emotional eating. I tried every diet out there, counting, tracking, restricting, but nothing ever worked. Food controlled my life, my thoughts, and I constantly felt guilty after eating. But once I learned how to heal the emotional triggers behind my eating and trust my body, everything changed. I stopped obsessing over food, the weight started coming off naturally, and I found real freedom in how I ate and lived. So I created the Sober Eating year-long mentorship to help other women experience the same transformation. So you can stop battling with food, you can lose weight without deprivation, and you can feel confident in your body again. In this mentorship, you'll have access to my proven nervous system rewiring method. You'll have access to live coaching with me, weekly accountability, and a community of women who truly understand your journey. You'll also have free access to my signature programs, the Emotional Eating Solution and Decoding Permanent Weight Loss, valued at $2,000. Click the link in the show notes to explore the mentorship today. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you every step of the way. And then let's move into food and identity. One of the biggest reasons why it's so hard to heal from emotional eating, why it is so hard to lose weight permanently, why it is so hard for us to break the chains of food addiction or of this yo-yo dieting mentality, gaining and losing the same weight, is because for many of us, this dynamic has been part of us for so long. Even though it's like a toxic dynamic, even though it makes us miserable, even though like it feels heavy, and we like literally with 99% of our cells in our body want it to be different. It's been our identity and a part of us for so long that we don't know who we are beyond this struggle, right? People, many women that I work with, once we get into like the nuts and bolts of things, it's one of the reasons why people subconsciously self-sabotage, because who are you beyond the struggle with food? And so the thing that we have to remember and continue to cultivate is a life beyond our relationship with food. And this is where the confidence piece comes in, because we need to feel confident with ourselves outside of our relationship with food and our body, right? We need to really feel connected to our self-value and our self-worth, right? So what are the things that make you feel alive? What do you love that has nothing to do with food or your body? What brings you joy that isn't about how you look or what you eat, right? Like I think it's really important to feel good in your body for sure. And I'm a huge proponent of losing weight if you want to. I'm definitely not one of these black and white people. I'm a proponent of it, but it can't be your only identity. It can't be the only thing that brings you worthiness. And when we start with this food struggle at such a young age, we stunt our creative growth a lot of times, right? So if you're listening to this and you feel like, oh my God, I've been struggling with yo-yo dieting and, and emotional eating and binging or like food noise for so long since I was a kid, and, my mom did and my grandma did and my aunts did, like if this is your life, recognize that your creative energy towards other things in life was probably like never presented to you. And so it's totally not your fault. However, you do need to start to create this new path where you explore yourself and the parts of yourself that don't have to do with your body image and food, so that you can have a greater capacity, so that your presence in the world, you really feel connected to that it's more than just food and your body image. And you can also include wanting to feel good about food and your body image in that, but it's not the only thing, right? So maybe you love painting or writing or hiking or music, right? Or drawing or something, but it's been overshadowed by the constant noise of what should I eat? What shouldn't I eat? Why can't I get it right? Oh my God, what am I going to wear to this thing? Is it going to fit me? Do I have to I really want to wear this size. Oh my God, what am I going to wear to this party or whatever it is, right? Rediscovering who you are beyond food, beyond just thinking about your weight, is one of the most powerful things you could do for healing. Because when you start expanding yourself and your life and your connection to your self-worth outside of food, food naturally takes up less space. And ironically, usually the results, the body results and the eating results that you're looking to feel and see happen. And so coming into the last phase, the last topic I wanted to talk about in the episode is that from shame, right? From this feeling of shame and unworthiness and this constant, rigid identity as a person who struggles with food and yo-yo dieting and yo-yo weight, right? You can move into this really, really authentic self-acceptance. And it's not about fixing yourself, it's about freeing yourself. Because for so long, you may have seen emotional eating as a personal failure, right? Like you might have seen your struggles with food and eating, and your struggles with your body image as something that makes you, something that makes you like I said, like a failure. But what if instead you really started to understand and say to yourself, this was something that helped me cope, right? Obsessing about this was, whether it was a generationally inherited coping mechanism or whether it was something that you developed on your own. What if you started to say to yourself, I see why I did that, instead of beating yourself up, right? I see why I obsessed over eating and food for so long. But now I'm ready to find something different, right? So we have to be willing to see our behaviors as separate from our self-worth and separate from our natural goodness and divinity as people, right? Our behaviors are usually information, right? They're usually messengers somewhat. They're showing us something, right? And if we disentangle our identity from our behaviors, then we're able to have this self-acceptance. And it makes it easier to change. It makes it easier to change without feeling like, without feeling like we have to fix ourselves, right? And there is this kind of, it's interesting because there is this kind of way that some people talk about self-acceptance where you just it's kind of like this, well, just accept yourself as you are. And I think sometimes there's like a certain giving up element to that. Like, oh, this is, trying to change. It makes me feel guilty or makes me feel shame around, wanting to change my physical body or wanting to, change something about my eating habits and, trying to put boundaries around some of my eating because it makes me feel a certain way. And I feel, so there's certain uncomfortable feelings that we have around body image and around eating. And sometimes it can be easier to just say like, well, I'm just going to accept myself. And by accepting myself, that means that I'm just going to accept myself as I am and I don't have to change. That doesn't really work. That's just avoidance, right? So we want to make sure that we don't slip into, self-acceptance as an umbrella cover for being avoidant and giving up. Because real self-acceptance means I am not happy with how things are going right now. I'm not happy with how I feel right now. I would feel more confident if I, looked a certain way, and I'm accepting that, not because I feel like there's something wrong with me, but because I understand and I see that this way is not the best way. And now I'm ready to find something different, right? It's choosing to treat yourself with kindness as you grow, as you change. Because real lasting change never comes from shame. It comes from compassion. It comes from understanding. It comes from deciding I am worthy of something that makes me feel good, physically, emotionally, and I am going to take small steps to get there, right? I am going to take small steps to get there. And I'm not going to feel ashamed about that. I'm not going to feel like I'm rejecting myself for that reason. I'm going to feel like I'm honoring myself. Okay. So that is all I have for you today. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I love doing these episodes for you. I love all the listeners. I'm just so thrilled with Everyone who listens to the podcast, please subscribe. Please give us a like if you're watching on YouTube. And that's it for me. I'll see you next time. And thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.